Oh, that smile. Okay, guys, the 2021 NFL schedule was released yesterday. We have a lot to unpack here, so stay with me. First, Tom Brady and the Bucs look to repeat as champs after returning all 22 starters on offense and defense. The last team to run it back was the 2003-2004 Patriots, so don't count Brady out here. The Chiefs also look to make it back to the Super Bowl for the third straight year, but 5 of their first 7 games are against 2020 playoff teams, and the Cowboys face Tampa, Kansas City, New Orleans, and New England, all on the road. So, Shannon, after seeing free agency, the draft, and now schedules, where are your early Super Bowl picks?
Skip, for me, Skip, I'm going to start with the AFC first, Skip. I love what the Bills have done. I love what the Ravens have done. I love what the Browns have done. And I think this year is going to be Kansas City's toughest challenge getting back to the AFC Championship game and potentially getting to the Super Bowl. But of all the teams that, when I look at free agency and when I look at the draft, I think, for me, Kansas City's done the best job because what with their substantial weakness is now strength. You look at the offensive line and what happened to Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. They signed Joe Tooney. Orlando Brown, they traded for Orlando Brown, gave him a first-round pick, who's a 2-time Pro Bowl tackle, left and right. Austin Blight, the center, they signed him from the Rams. Kyle Long, I know Kyle Long has been injured, but Skip, he was one of the premier guards. I could make a case. He was right there every bit lockstep and barrel with Zach Martin when he was healthy with the Bears. He was exceptional. Big, physical, could run block. Also, they could kick him out the tackle, and he could play right tackle. You get a couple of ops back in, Laurent Duvernay-Tardif and Lucas Niang. So, Skip, what was a weakness, a real bad weakness, is now a strength. They signed Jerick McKinnon in free agency. The thing was, Skip, their running game, they're going to have to rely a little, they're going to get a little better at running. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I said this even when he had that exceptional first game, I said, he really small. I said, they're going to struggle if they just try to pound him the ball on 31, 32. And Skip, we saw in situations when they needed a first down on 31 or 32, they put the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hand. They asked him to throw the football. And the same thing when Mahomes got hurt against Cleveland, Skip, remember on that 4th down? They threw the ball. They asked them to throw the ball because they didn't have confidence they could run and pick it up for a first down. The weapons are still back on the offensive side of the football. So I like Kansas City, even though I believe it will be their toughest challenge to date in order to get back to the Super Bowl. But I believe they do make it back for a third time, barring injury. And on the NFC side, Skip, look, I've been going up and down and trying to find someone that I believe that can consistently, that you look at Green Bay, they got 10 teams. They played 10 teams that made the playoffs last year. I look at the Giants. I like the Giants, but are they ready to contend? So to make a long story short story long, I'm taking Tampa. I believe it's going to be a rematch of last year's Super Bowl, but the outcome will be totally different.
Wait a second. You just picked Tom Brady's team to get to the Super Bowl again?
Yeah, but they're losing this time.
Okay, but this is the 44-year-old quarterback you have tried to retire for each of the last 5 seasons, and now you're saying, I give up, I give in. He's going to another Super Bowl, his 11th?
Skip, if Aaron Rodgers was in New Orleans, Skip, some of the teams that potentially have the defense to contend with Tom Brady or contain him, I'm not so sure about their quarterbacks. And that's what, because at the end of the day, Skip, this is a quarterback league. You can tell me all about your defense. You can tell me all about your run game. You can tell me all about your coaching and all that other stuff, your fan base. But if your quarterback cannot perform under fire, you're not going. Because as you go further along, the pressure, whether you admit it or not, it becomes more profound. And Tom Brady is the one guy that no matter how hot the fire gets, he seems to stay cool. And no lead is safe from him. So with that being said, the only thing, the outcome of this Super Bowl, because of the offensive line of Kansas City, I believe the outcome will be different. But I'm not so sure the same 2 participants that were in last year's Super Bowl, they're not back again.
Okay, so I just want to get this straight.
Yes.
Shannon Sharpe, Hall of Famer, is now publicly admitting, if not conceding, that Tom Brady at 44 is capable of winning the NFC again, correct? That's what you just said.
Yeah, Skip. Yeah, that team is talented. That team is very, very talented. And barring injuries, like I said, I believe they'll be 13-4, and they'll be primed to possibly do what they didn't do last year, Skip. They'll probably start the playoffs at home, as opposed to being on the road, which makes their road a little easier, and they're probably not going to have to play as many games because you want to minimize the amount of games that you play.
Okay, but Shannon Sharp says it's a quarterback's game, and he's picking Tampa to get back to the Super Bowl. So I think you're admitting publicly you have been wrong about Tom Brady. Am I right?
Well, Skip, I believe he has less landmines to navigate. I believe the stiffer of the competitions, the Kansas Cities, the Clevelands, the Ravens, the Bills. I believe the firepower I do, both offensively and defensively, resides in the AFC. Because look at Green Bay, Skip. Look what's going on there. We still don't know. It's still a lot to be settled in Green Bay. The Saints, what are they going to look like post Drew Brees? So whom else? Washington, are you willing to take a leap of faith and say, okay, the Washington football team? Are you willing to take that leap of faith and say the Cowboys, with the poorest defense they've had, they're bringing a guy that's replaced the guy that had a worse defense where he was than the guy that they replaced it with, that he was where he was at? So for me, Skip, Tampa by default, it should be the favorite in the NFC.
Okay, now back to the AFC. I am now going to have the courage of my convictions. I am now going to have some guts to go out to the end of the limb. And I know it's early, and I reserve the right to change this pick depending on what I see in the preseason.
No.
We always say that. That was the whole point of this. You can't disqualify this pick because we're still in May.
Okay.
I am picking Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns to win the AFC and lose to Tom Brady in the Super Bowl at SoFi Stadium. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is about Baker coming of age, growing up right before your very eyes last year, went over those last 11 games without Odell. I'm knocking on wood for Odell that he comes back.
Odell's going to be 100%.
back. I know, and I don't love that, but I love this team. I love its defense. I love what Baker did last year. He went 8-3 down the stretch with 20 touchdowns to only 3 interceptions. He was, by Pro Football Focus, ranked 4th among quarterbacks over those last 11 games. Their offense was ranked 2nd over those last, really, it went up 2nd for the whole year. And what's not to like about the best offensive line in pro football, and I think the best running back duo in pro football? Is that, can you argue with that?
Oh, yeah.
With Chubb and Kareem? I just don't know how you argue with that. And maybe they do figure out how to use Odell better. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Baker and Odell make some peace that he can't get every pass forced to him, that he'll get his 3 or 4 catches a game instead of his 8 or 10 catches a game. I'm not sure how that's going to work. I still wouldn't be shocked if they traded Odell, just the way I wouldn't be shocked that if Atlanta trades Julio in, building up toward the season. But the point is, what I really love about the Browns is the defense. This is Cleveland's breakout year, and it just feels like meant to be that they open at Kansas City, and I believe they have a chance to steal that game. They're 4.5-point dogs. But the point is, if they could win that game, they might wind up, to your point, right back in that game at Kansas City, except this time in the AFC Championship game. And I believe they could beat them twice.
Skip, if you look at what they did defensively, I believe every move that they made was to get past the Kansas City Chiefs.
I agree.
You look at what they did. Yep. You mentioned they drafted a cornerback, number 1. After they had taken a cornerback, Denzel Ward, the year before. Greedy Williams, they took Grant Delpit, Troy Hill, John Johnson III, Clowney. All of these guys is to do what? To be able to get pressure on Mahomes and be able to hold up on the back end with those receivers. The McCole Hardman, the Reek Hills, the Travis Kelce's. They're like, you know what? We're going to pressure you, and we're going to put our best athletes on the field. Because it looks to me, Skip, they're not afraid. I believe they play them in a dime defense because they're not afraid of them running the football.
I agree.
And because they're not afraid of you running the football, I'm going to play the smaller guys. I'm going to put the corners because I want my best athletes on the field to go against